Hey ladies, super excited to be working with you guys today. So we're gonna make our beautiful patio planter. You guys got all of your supplies. Everybody went home with 7 plants. You went home with your pot and your bag of dirt. So the first thing we need to do is we're gonna dump our bag of dirt right into our planter. Now this is going to be a get dirty class. So hopefully you don't have manis. Nobody has a pretty mani right now because nobody can get one, but we're gonna do the best. So get rid of your bag. What we want to do is we really want to get down there in the dirt and kind of break up all of the big crumbs. So get it nice and loose. We want to make sure that the roots of our new plants have a lot of air to kind of grow down into. So make sure that it's loose. Now your dirt should have filled up the pot into that inside lip. That's about the area that we filled them up to. So that should be where you're at. You're probably going to have extra dirt once we add in all of our plants, so you can just keep that in a side bucket. It's great dirt, so you might make sure you throw it into another pot or into the garden. All right, so we're broken up. Our crumbles are all broken up, any big chunks. It's nice and loose in there. So we're going to talk a little bit about perennials versus annuals. So a lot of people get very confused. Annuals seem like it makes sense that they would come back every year. They do not. Annuals bloom for one season and then they're done. Perennials bloom all year. Well, they don't always bloom all year, but they last all year and then they winter over and then they come back the following year. So we love to give you a little bit of each. So what you can do with those perennials at the end of your growing season for your pot is you're gonna take them out and you're gonna put them into the garden somewhere, or you can leave them in the pot. If we have a very mild winter like we did this past year with not a lot of heavy snow and not a lot of deep freezing, those plants might winter over right in your pot. But for safety's sake, putting them in the garden is your best bet because then they get the ground protection. So we're going to talk a little bit about which plants you got and which ones are perennials and annuals. Now, most of your tags are going to say what they are. So on the back, or of course I pulled the one that doesn't say. Maybe it does. I don't think it does. Okay, of course. Let me get one that actually says. Okay, so at the top of this one, it says annual. Typically it will say annual or perennial. Your creeping Jenny, I'm going to talk about the ones that we definitely have that are one of each. But what I want you to do, you also got some popsicle sticks in your package. So on the back of each popsicle stick, you're either gonna write a P or an A for perennial or annual, so that when you remove this at the end of the season, you're gonna know which plant is which. You're also gonna write what your plant is. Some of these are a little bit big and obnoxious, so once you get them in your planter, it doesn't work well. I love to keep these in my kitchen in a Ziploc baggie so I can reference back to them because they do have the care information on them. But I like a popsicle stick just in my planter. It's a little cuter. All right, so let's talk about the things that we are planting today, the things that everybody has the same of. Everybody has a nice spike, which is tall. This is a single, this is an annual. You can bring them inside. It's related to a Dracaena. So you can bring them inside and you can winter them over, take them back outside. They can grow in and out. But for one season outside, this is gonna last. It's a tropical variety, so it will last you 1 year. We have sweet potato vine, which is another annual. So we had 3 different colors of this. You either had the red tone, the richer red, almost a black tone, or a limey green tone. All 3 are gonna do the same thing. They're gonna trail beautifully over the edge of that pot. This is also an annual, so 1 season. So that's gonna last you the year. We have Angelonia, so you either got a pink or a purple Angelonia. Whoops, somebody's pulling down our road backwards. That's okay. And the Angelonia is going to be blooming. It's going to bloom all year for you. And we're going to get these beautiful, taller. This is going to get taller as it grows, and we'll get beautiful foliage, flower spikes on that. And the other annual we have is, now, Shay, can you give me one of those Euphorbia? I can't remember which, you either got one or the other. You either got an additional perennial or you got a trailing annual. So this trailing annual is called a portulaca. And this is a cupcake variety. It blooms beautifully as soon as the sun comes out. It's gorgeous, and you get all of these gorgeous blooms. This is also going to trail. So you either have this or a lantana. It might be a lantana too. Or you have this. So everybody got 7 plants. So we kind of had some that we had to divvy out. This is a perennial, and this is where you're gonna have to refer to the tag, whether it's annual or perennial. Portulaca. This one is going to be an annual, so this is 1 year. This one is called lantana. This is what you have in your pot or in your bucket of flowers, and this is what yours looks like. This is also an annual. It's a beautiful yellow flower, lantana, more of a clustery look. And then the other option that was between those 3 would be this one. It's a beautiful foliage. This is a perennial. It is called a Euphorbia. It gets these little tiny flower clusters on it. So you have one of the 3. So that's gonna be one of your options. Okay, the 3 definite perennials that we have going in are a gorgeous yarrow. Now this is going to get flower spikes on it. They're more of a cottage yarrow. It kind of looks like it almost looks like this lantana here, similar flower, but these are gonna be a pink and apricot or a peachy color. So these are gonna be really beautiful. This is a perennial. This is going to go into your garden after your initial pot. End of fall, you know, kind of when frost hits. Well, kind of want to get these in the ground a little bit before frost. So your perennials, you're going to want to get in the ground. Maybe mid-October is a good time to kind of disrobe this planter and get things into the ground. You also have a hen and chick variety or sedum variety. So it's either going to be a echinacea type, not echinacea, I'm sorry, echeveria type one like this, or it's going to be a sedum that's going to have little traily pieces. This is going to spread. This is a perennial, comes back, works great in a rock garden, doesn't need a lot of care. The other one that we have is the creeping Jenny. Everybody has one of these. Beautiful. This is going to come back. It's going to go a little crazy. This is going to get really big and beautiful and traily. So this will come back next year as well. So plant this in the garden when you're done. So if you have any questions, you can email us. We can help you out if you kind of get lost. But most of the care tags should have whether they're a perennial or an annual. All right, so we're going to start talking a little bit about the design of your container. You have to think in your head about where you're going to put this. Are you going to put it up against a wall? Or are you going to put it right at the corner of a step where you're going to see it from all sides? Or are you going to put it back in the corner of your deck? So think in your head about where you're going to put this, because that's going to determine your design a little bit. For me, I think that this pot, maybe I'm going to put it right on the corner of my patio when everybody walks up and people are walking up from all sides. So I want my height to be in the middle. So my height pieces are going to be my Dracaena and also my Angelonia. So they're going to be the tall pieces. Now, if I put these in here in their pots, I like to play around with it before I commit. So I don't take anything out of the pots, but they're not all gonna fit in with the pots on it. This is a lot of plants to fit into this planter, but we're gonna make it full and we're gonna make it beautiful and it's gonna fill out so gorgeous by the end of the year. But we're just gonna kind of play around a little bit. Now I wanna keep my height in the middle. This is gonna get very tall. This is gonna get to about 2 feet to 3 feet tall by the time the summer's over. So I really want this to be able to shine and be that centerpiece for my arrangement. Now, if you were doing this on a deck, you're gonna put that up against, against a wall. You're gonna put this towards the back and it's going to sit right at the lip. You can see what I've done here. So, and then you're gonna have all this space to work with, where if I'm going in the center, we're right there, and then we're gonna have that space around the edge to work with. So I'm gonna go center, and then I'm gonna kind of look at my plants. Now, I wanna think about the things that are gonna trail over the side. I have this gorgeous creeping Jenny. So I'm gonna want that on one side, and maybe this portulaca or the sweet potato vine to balance that out over here on this side. And I need to think about color too. So I have a lot of this limey green, but then I have this beautiful red foliage. This one we're not gonna put in, we're gonna pretend. Let's see, I have too many plants up here. So I have this gorgeous red foliage, and I have this pink happening, and I have this orange happening. This has my sedum here has a little bit of a red tinge. So I really want to think about spreading out my shades of my, those varieties of greens that I have. So this one has a little bit of height right now, but it will start to trail over the edge. So we're going to get that planted back here. Now this is I think these are always the star of the show. They're so unique. They're so different. They don't need a lot of love, but they have so much character to them. So I really want to put this somewhere where it's going to be seen well. So I'm going to kind of tuck it between these trailings so that these kind of make a frame, they kind of frame out this beautiful sedum. And then this gorgeous one, this is going to get some height to it. So we're probably going to tuck that back here next to the sweet potato vine, kind of to balance out that Angelonia, and then also the spike, and then we're going to have that tall yarrow. So we're going to have some beautiful cascades, a nice focal piece here, some cascade out the back, and then some height. All right, so the next step, we're gonna kind of take these out. We're gonna kind of place them around where we want them. So we're gonna kind of get our visual, kind of take them out, put them off to the side in that general area, and then we're gonna start unpotting our plants. Now, I like to start in the center and work my way around. So I'm gonna take this Dracaena out. I'm gonna save this off to the side. Remember, it looks like most of them do have their little picture, but put that off to the side. When I take things out of a pot, I really want to kind of squeeze the pot. If you have a lot of roots growing out of the bottom, you just kind of want to gently pull them loose. Sometimes it's a little tricky to get them out of the pot if they're root bound. And we're going to take that out, put our pot off to the side. Now I'm just going to kind of sit it here. Now, sometimes the dirt, if it's dry, it's gonna crumble and maybe your plant is gonna flop a little bit. That's okay. Once you get all of these plants in, it's really gonna hold everything in place. Okay, we're gonna put in that Angelonia next because that was beside it. So give the pot a nice little squeeze. I kind of work right over top of my pot. I'm gonna take that care tag out, put it off to the side. All right, next up, we're gonna go with our next tallest one. We're gonna go with that Yarrow. This one is really root bound. You can see the roots really growing out of the bottom there. So I really just kind of need to squeeze, break it apart. And you can see this one does have a whole lot of roots and they were really bound in there. So what I want to do is kind of tickle them a little bit, get it a little bit loose. We don't want to do too much damage to the roots, but a few little rips, no big deal. We just kind of want to loosen them up so that they can really start creeping down into that dirt. All right, so I've loosened them up a little bit. Now I'm going to tuck it right in there. This one is a little deeper, so I'm going to dig a little hole. Now, rule of thumb, you want to leave about 1/2 inch to 1 inch of room between the top of your plants, so that root base of your plants, or that bottom of your actual plant before you get to the root, 1/2 inch to 1 inch below the lip of your vase. We don't want things sticking up over the top. Planter, not a vase, planter. Thank you, Shay Mac.
You're welcome.
All right, so over the top, if they're over the top, what's gonna happen when you water? That dirt's gonna spill out and they're not gonna be supported. So we wanna make sure we go about 1/2 inch to 1 inch below the top of your pot. Okay, now I'm gonna get this gorgeous sweet potato vine back here in the back. Once again, give it a little squeeze, give it a little tuck. So pretty. Okay, tuck it down there so that it's below that lip. And the great thing about this, I'm gonna turn this around so you can kind of see how the back's coming together. I do have some gaps, so I can kind of wiggle things around a little bit because I know I have 3 more pretty full things to put in up here. So we want to make sure we're giving everything enough room. And we want a little bit of room between each thing so it has room to spread and grow. All right, let's just keep working our way around. So we're gonna go with this Creeping Jenny. This is one of my absolute favorite plants. Does really well in most gardens, works great in a rock garden. It'll climb up or down anything you want it to. As far as like a stone wall, you know, it works really well because it can kind of cling to like concrete or brick or any kind of planter that you have. And it's just pretty. It's a very dainty, delicate leaf. Okay, and then let's go. Whoops, I put that one on the wrong side. We're gonna go with you over here because I want some of that color balanced out with my portulaca. This is a very condensed version. I'm trying to go through this quickly so you don't have to watch a huge video in order to get this done. But I definitely want you guys to know if you do have questions about any of these plants in particular, you know, we can help you out. So we're gonna tuck that portulaca in there. Now this will also get very traily and very big. All right, and then last but not least, we have our gorgeous Sempervivum. Okay. So this one definitely has a little more dirt than I need. So I'm gonna try to dig a little bit. Dig down there. I'm gonna have to take a little dirt out. And I'm gonna put it right here in my little pot. Because I'm gonna use that to backfill, because I'm definitely gonna need a little backfill in here. All right, so we're gonna tuck. All right, and then I have a couple little holes here. So I'm gonna take that dirt that I just dug out. Now, these sedum, depending on what variety you got, they get these little babies with them. And the babies will really start to trail over the edge too. So that's gonna look really pretty in the front of our planter once that starts happening. And the great thing about those is they're really hard, they're super hardy. They can kind of adapt to any area. Now the plants that we did give you, we just try to do mostly part sun. So they're gonna kind of be able to work anywhere. If you have them, let's talk a little bit about watering. If you have them somewhere that gets full sun all day, morning to night, you're gonna wanna make sure you water this planter every day because in the hot summer sun, they're gonna dry out very quickly. When things are in the ground, they're allowed to absorb all of the ground moisture that's there. When they're in pots or hanging baskets, you might notice if you don't water your hanging baskets for a day or two, they're gone. And they're really hard to bring back. So I do want you to make sure you're conscious about where you're putting it as far as how often you need to water it. Any type of planters or potters, you're gonna wanna check them every day or two, no matter where they're at, just to make sure the soil always feels moist. It doesn't need to be sopping wet. You don't want that because that can cause root rot. These planters, what's great about them, all the ones you went home with, they have the dish at the bottom. So that's gonna hold a little bit of water reserve if you do overwater it or if we get heavy rain. Rule of thumb is plants need about 2 inches of water a week. So you wanna think if we get a good rainstorm that week, it might be okay. There might be enough in that reserve bowl to kind of hold it steady. But what you wanna do is just kind of check it. You want it to feel damp. You don't ever want it to feel too wet though. If it's feeling too wet, put it out somewhere, let it get good and dry. Now the other thing is you wanna water your plants either early in the morning before the sun is super bright or late at night. So what happens then is if you water it in the middle of the day at noon, high noon, that sun is beating down on it, that water is gonna evaporate faster than it can soak into the dirt. So if you water it at night, it's got all night long to kind of soak up those nutrients and all of the water into the roots, and then that's gonna help it grow. And same thing early morning before that sun is super hot. It's got all morning, it's got the sunshine shining on it, but it's not overly hot yet that it's gonna evaporate too quickly. So think about that. The other thing is deadheading. If you wanna take off some of your dead blooms from your annuals, that's your Angelonia, your portulaca, anything that looks like it's not in great shape. You can snip it, you can pinch it back. So any flowers that are past their prime, you're just gonna pinch it back right at the head, and that's gonna kind of allow new blooms to grow. So think about that. Any dead foliage, if you're feeling like something is not looking the way that it should look, you're gonna wanna check and make sure that you don't have root rot happening, and that's how you're gonna know that. If the soil is way too wet, that means it's getting a little too much water. If we have a week where it just pours down rain for an entire week in a row, you're gonna wanna bring that under cover and just let it dry out a little bit. So we do have to be a little more conscious of the water that's taking place with our plant, what the weather's doing, and how we're gonna navigate through that. So trying to think of anything else I need to mention? Shay Mac?
I need to stick your little sticks.
Yes, so then your little sticks. Shay's right over here. You should pop in and say hello. There she is.
Hello.
There she is. All right. So we're gonna write, I just totally dropped half of mine. We're gonna write on our sticks what the variety of plant is. So whether it's the Dracaena, the Angelonia, the sweet potato vine, you're welcome to write that on your stick. But the most important thing is whether it's a perennial or an annual. Perennials are gonna go in the garden at the end of the year, put them somewhere fun, and you're gonna see them pop back next year. Annuals are going to be spent for the year. You can try to bring them inside. I do have some people that like to bring them inside. I love to bring everything inside and see what happens to it over the winter. Because if I can put something back outside in the spring and have it for another year, I'm always gonna do that. I love to repurpose stuff. So sometimes you'll be surprised at what'll hold over. And then you can take your popsicle sticks and just pop them in at Rich Place. Like I said, it's just a little bit of a cuter technique than the actual care tags. But the care tags, hold on to, zip them up in a Ziploc baggie, tuck them in a kitchen junk drawer or something, get them out at the end of the season if you kind of need refreshers on where things are gonna work best in the garden. I did try to get things that, like I said, are part sun, so they're gonna kind of work in any garden that's getting about 4 to 6 hours of sun a day. All right, thanks guys so much for trusting in us and doing this with us. This is a whole new world that we're all trying to navigate through. So thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. Love ya.
Bye.